Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths, and today's Real Talk is with a real leader who I've gotten to know recently, but we actually knew each other before. Joneé Billy is joining us today. She recently was promoted, so I am super excited to welcome her and congratulate her. She's Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships and External Affairs. I hope I got that right at Power Play New York City. So, Joneé, hi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So, folks, as I mentioned, I was introduced to Joneé. Oh my God, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago from a mutual friend, Adrienne and Cola Rocchetti, who is a dear friend of mine. She was on the show. And Joneé and I just traded some emails. I think we spoke, I'm not even sure, but you stuck out to me, your energy, what you were passionate about, what you were doing. And so when we reconnected recently, I know I was like, I have got to have you on the show. So you are working in the sports space, but specific to social impact. So folks, think of this as the social impact in sports episode. And what I'd like to do actually is let's talk about what that actually even means. We're going to get into your new role and the company you work for in a minute, but I think when you and I have been close to social impact in sport, we just talk about it like we live it, we breathe it. But for the audience who may not know it as well, give us a kind of foundation of how to think about social impact in the sports landscape.
Yeah, I mean, for us, um, for us, when I think about social impact, is obviously being able to work with a community of young people, but also utilizing sport as that vehicle to really change the narrative and to really impact this community or the people that we work with. And so, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's really great because I think sometimes people think social impact is over here, like on the right
Mhm.
side. I'm using my hands for those who are listening. And then they think social impact over here and sports over here. And so again, the two come together and what you said, it's like a vehicle to create that impact for a lot of times a marginalized community. So you spoke about our community was the what your phrase you said. So talk to us about power play and what are you all doing and talk to us about the role that you have.
Yeah. So I work for a nonprofit organization here in New York City with a mission of empowering girls through sports. We utilize a social emotional learning curriculum that was developed by the Women in Sport Foundation to create a safe space, get young people. So I use the word young people a lot, but really, and it's meant to be inclusive of gender expansive youth. But our primary audience is particularly girls, right? Um, and so we create this little safe space and then open it up and then use that as a tool to then introduce young people to various different sports. We consider ourselves to be sport agnostic. So if there's any sport out there and we have the ability to teach it, we roll with it. And we're really excited about it. You know, um, we've had tremendous success in really looking to stem the decline in confidence and self-esteem and body image issues that a lot of young girls, particularly in that middle school range, tend to face. And so
Mm.
we, sport for me has been an amazing vehicle. And so being able to continue to push sports and promote it to young women has been impactful. So, in my role, I am the senior director of strategic partnerships and external affairs there, and I have the fortune of working with sports teams, sport leagues, sport entities in creating amplified opportunities for young people in sports.
Got it. Got it. It's really interesting when you mention that about that especially in young girls coming up, and I know that there are sensitivities around the gender and being gender inclusive, and to your point, and I love that you brought that up. To your point, it is a phenomenon that we do see in girls coming up where they get to the, I believe, and you'll know this better than I do, but the research, the studies show that again, like that middle age, they start middle school age, they start to drop out of sport. And I know from coming up and playing sport, it was such a, when other things in my world necessarily weren't going so well, it was a place where I could go and feel completely me. I was accepted. I could get my, call it energy or whatever, that channel that energy. And it was so helpful for me. So I love to see what you're doing. And I would love for you to talk a bit more about these partnerships that you have and that you're creating. What do they look like? What is that? I'm thinking, because you're in New York City, you probably have something with the Liberty, the New York Liberty. But give us some examples, and what do those partnerships look like when they come to life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the basic level, yes, we would love to be able to bring girls or bring our young people out to games. You'll be surprised that even though we live in New York City, there, we have the one of the best transportation systems. You would think that you can go everywhere, but the reality is the young people that we serve oftentimes do not leave a 5 block radius of where they live, right? So it's like the opportunities are there. We have every single team is based in New York, but have I ever been? Have my parents attended a game? Have I, is it a money financial situation where I'm not able to afford tickets? So, we've been
Mm,
grateful where we've had, a lot of the teams here actually provide tickets for young people and their families sometimes to come out to games, right?
mhm,
We've had on court experiences that we're so grateful for. We've been able to have their camps and their different academies come out to our schools and work with, not just the girls within our programs, but also the larger school community, which has been super impactful. But then we
mm,
also take it a step further, right? Um, if I am a young person, I don't have ambitions of wanting to, say, play sports at a collegiate level. Hey, let me introduce you to this amazing group of women, particularly women. Like, yes, we love our allied men, but we're very particular to women in the sports field that are doing
mm.
amazing work. And let me show you what these career opportunities within the sports space can also look like.
Yeah, that's such a great point because it's not just sport to go watch or sport to go play. Again, like this is a career avenue for people, and it is hard to break in. So I love that you're providing that. Again, you use the word vehicle before. Again, as hopefully the audience can hear, it can be a vehicle to impact the lives of the youth in so many ways. And I want to also pause on something. A lot of times people think, oh, we'll just give them tickets, but that's not enough. To your point, it's like getting them in the hands, but also getting them there, and the welcome and the inclusivity of that is a lot more than just, I think it probably is the same thing as like just donating money. It's
Yes.
it can be helpful, but it's also like there has to go beyond that for it to actually break in and do
Yes.
the work, the transformational work that has to be done.
I totally agree. For me, I'm a huge proponent or a believer of sport for social impact, right? And so when we talk, I think that especially in certain communities, our athletes have such a stronghold in being able to influence culture
Mm,
and influence our young people. And, I think, yes, athlete appearances are great, but that's not always available, right? But how can we utilize the other people within that space to also
mm,
deliver that message, and take it beyond just, yes, coming to a game or giving money. Money is great. We appreciate it. We need money. Um, but money also runs out. And I think when there's more sustainability or there's deeper
mhm.
impact, it also allows for a lot more. It also works on your fan. It also helps you with your fan engagement and all of that on that end as well. But also, it also has a larger impact on the young people.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually I'm going to pause for a second. Tell us a little bit about more of who you all are impacting at the organization. I know you said youth, primarily girls, and inner city, I believe. And so, can you give us an idea of what's the age range?
Yeah. So we serve girls anywhere between 8 and 18,
Oh,
primarily girls of color. We tend to use the word under resourced as
okay,
opposed
okay.
to underprivileged.
Oh,
But
yes.
we work with under-resourced communities, which means that our girls all attend Title I schools, and Title I means that our the young people qualify for free lunch. That your
Oh,
financial status affords you a free lunch or a free meal at school.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you is kind of how do you identify those people? So that's great to know. Is it school based? Do they belong to a group? But what's that sort of landscape part of it?
Yeah. So we partner with schools and other CBOs, so community centers, things like that. And then we go in and we offer our programming totally free of charge to young people to sometimes 3 days a week.
Nice. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're from the New York area. I'm going to
I
switch a
am.
little bit here because I want to get into your evolution and how you came to be in the seat that you are. From what I know, you played sports, you came up working in sports. I believe ticket sales at the Knicks was your
Yes.
start. And then
First
now you're
job out of
finding
college.
and then now you're finding yourself in the eye of social impact in the sports space. So give us a little bit of a peek into your own journey and how you made those moves and the decisions along the way.
Yeah. I mean, I was an athlete, obviously. For me, I've always been athletic. I've always played sports, loved it. I wanted to be outside, right? I could care less about the toys. And sport, I think I started playing basketball was the one sport that stuck with me. I walked into a gym at the age of 12, and I went from being the outlier because at 12 you're in middle school and you're tall. Keep in mind I'm a 6 feet at 12. I'm already 6 feet, and so I walked into a space where you're the outlier. Oh, why is she so tall? To now being, oh no, we want the big girl. We want the tall girl to be a part of it, right? And so sport just gave me this automatic and immediate family that I loved.
Mm,
I am an only child, so I guess somewhere deep inside my psyche, I was looking for a home.
yeah.
And so I love that, but it's also the sense of belonging, once again, in the fact that, and that acceptance of who I was.
Mhm.
And I think as I, be, I learned the game and I became better and my confidence grew, my confidence also grew outside of sports. Into my everyday life, right? And that's why this work is so important to me. So I went on to play basketball collegiately at Mount Holyoke College. And then after college, I started at season ticket sales at MSG, selling Knicks, Rangers, and Liberty tickets. I think at that time, it's just like, oh, my body hurts. My knees hurt. Everything hurt. I don't want to play anymore. Um, and then the opportunity presented itself. There, a group in North Carolina, and they were looking to put together a traveling squad to go to Europe and essentially play exhibition games against some of the local teams. And I went and I tried out and I made the team. And, we went to, we toured Hungary and Germany and some of those other countries in the area. And I ended up being the only player that was actually signed off of that tour. And that
Wow.
launched my career, my international career, which I'm grateful for. But then the injuries came and they kept coming. And so it was like, all right, I know that I want to be in the sports space, but I don't know exactly what avenue within sports. Sales wasn't for me. It wasn't something that I was passionate about. So I
Okay.
decided to, but one of the other thing that I was really passionate about was community building and community
Mm,
development, right? And so I started working in the nonprofit sector. And, I started with coaching and then quickly kind of just ascended the ranks there. And that was amazing. And I got to the point where it was just like, okay, I don't want to do day to day programming. What's next, right? How do I combine? How do I marry all of these passions that I have And power play became a no-brainer. It married sports, it married philanthropy, it married the community building aspects of it. And here I am, working to provide other young people with that experience that I had as a little girl. Because I know that if it meant that much to me, I'm sure that, other people can benefit from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that story. And folks, as she's telling the story, I actually didn't know all of this. So it was great to hear. Also, because you hit so many things that I could personally identify with.
Yeah.
Starting basketball, I was 10. I was by 11, I was this height, 5'11. And so I know that kind of feeling special when you walk in because I was no longer the outlier. So again, everything you're saying, I think I truly resonates with me.
Yeah.
And even the part about, I think a lot of times, at least why I see other women who have succeeded along that journey and that path actually look to be a leader in an organization or to form a team in an organization or to go to a sports organization is still that feeling of, you called it home, that feeling of a bond, that feeling of a team. There's something special about it that I'm not always able to put into words. Um, and I recently went to the Cleveland Cavs Denver Nuggets game here in the Denver area.
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't been to a game in so long. And I worked in sports for so long, worked at the Nets. And I went there and I had this feeling of like this rush of feeling that again, but then also meeting it with realizing that I'm no longer really on the inside. So it was a little bit trippy in the moment, but it's something I've always valued. And I'm so glad that you spoke about it.
Yeah.
You have, you have such a way of, in your own journey of, and you speak about it so humbly, of succeeding and excelling and leading along the way. You talked about your college career, playing overseas, getting selected, all of that. So, do you think that do you bring over some of that, whether it's the drive or the leadership aspects, into your work on a daily basis? And what is that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the what are the things? What are the key skill sets that sports teaches you? Right, teamwork, dedication, resiliency, coming back from two ACL tears. All of those things. I mean, but the statistics also speaks for itself, right? 52% or 54, I think, percent of C-suite women played basketball. Oh, play. I'm sorry, not basketball. I'm biased.
I know I'm biased too.
54% of C-suite women actually played some level of collegiate sports.
Mm,
That's the impact that sport have on women, not just girls, but also women to succeed. It's just that go after it nature, that competitive drive, that leadership qualities. It is
yeah.
100% transferable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I think sometimes people hear competitive and they think that, like, if you and I are on the same team, that we're
Mm-hmm.
competing against each other per se. But it's the same thing when you are on the court. You're my teammate. I am going to go through a wall for you to succeed so
Absolutely.
that we succeed together. And I think that's something that I want to say could be special about women who've been athletes or women who have that bring it forward. Again, sometimes I think people can hear the competitive, and it's like it's different than what I think people hear on the surface.
Yeah. I listen. I still consider myself to be very much competitive, right? I want your successes
Yeah, exactly.
and drive my successes. Oh, she did that, right? Congratulations. I definitely 100% support you in it. But yeah, I think I need to work a little bit harder because I want to attain that too. But also, how can we work
Yeah.
together to accomplish a bigger goal and to exceed and supersede our goals as well? So yes, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're talking about your involvement with women in sports, which so I'm also going to bring to the forefront your involvement in an organization called WISE. So, folks, I was actually involved in WISE at one point as well. The founder, Sue Roden, is a legend for what she has done for women in WISE is Women in Sports and Events,
Correct.
right? Right. Um, I don't know why I always mix up the E part, but women in sports and events. And so talk to us about your involvement with WISE and again, like what is that doing? Because you live it, you really do walk the talk of social impact in the sports space, not only in your career, but also in just how you show up in the world.
I love Wise. I think first of all, shout out to Sue Roden. Love her. She's one of my personal mentors. Every person, forget women, every person needs that champion, that somebody who will consistently speak your name in rooms and who will go to bat for you. And Sue has been that to me. Actually, that's how I met Adrian.
Okay.
Because she was actually Sue's mentee
Right.
previously. Yeah, so love
Love
her.
to.
I think I became involved with Wise about 7 or 8 years ago. I was an early career person. I knew I wanted to be in the sports industry, but once again, not exactly knowing the exact space, and started attending events and some of the more expensive or higher end events that I couldn't attend. I started volunteering. And I
Oh.
think people see that consistency and that drive, right? And I would show up every single year. Like, you need a volunteer? I got you. I'll do it. I will get my foot in the door by any means necessary, right?
There we go.
I have met some amazing, super powerful women via Wise that I am grateful for. I would love to say that, all of my successes are my own and I pulled myself up by the bootstrap. No, that hasn't been the case. People have definitely opened doors for me and I'm super grateful. And my way of giving back to Wise is by volunteering, right? So I also serve on the programs committee for Wise NYC Metro, and I get to be a part of a team that works on creating programs that then introduce a wider scope of women to other women, a network of other women, but also amazing things that are happening within the sports space in the New York City region. So, love Wise.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the way that you're giving back and continuing to, again, I use that word so much, but like create that impact in a space that
Yeah.
needs it so much. And it's actually interesting because there's a group of women that I get together with often virtually, and I brought a new person into the group. And one of the things that she said was that that was the first time that she had felt in one invited, but also when you got to the group, actually like a warm welcome. And
Yeah.
so, and her perception actually was that there was usually like a closed door, and even in the circle of women in sports, it was also closed. So I think it is for those of us who have been or are in that sphere is to really do what you're doing, which is to open the doors, to pull people in. It's that thing of like, pull up a chair, don't just sit down at the table, pull up a chair and bring somebody else in. And again, you're such a walking example of doing that, and it's awesome to see.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, people pulled up a chair for me, and when you can't sit, you stand. You get into that door, you get your foot into that door, and you stand against the wall and you still take notes. It's okay.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll be able to build our own table. But until then, we're taking notes and we're helping others along the way. So that's my motto, 100%.
Oh, I love it. So something else I want to talk about is a post that I saw you do on LinkedIn recently. I'm a little bit of a stalker of, of yours on LinkedIn. I love to see what you've got going on. I know you did the sports challenge of posting for, I think it was 30 days. But the thing that I saw that I would love to talk about is I read it as you describing another layer of your own evolution in 2022
Yeah.
and as a woman. And so again, I was kind of like sucked into it, and I felt the energy that and the pride and sense of self that it sounds like you have developed. And so that's not easy, and a lot of us have moments where we're trying to do that or we're feeling insecure and that kind of thing. So talk about what was that all about, and who is who are you today, like through that journey?
Yeah. That challenge was tough. I'm grateful for that challenge. However, I tend to live my life very I compartmentalize very well, right? But
Okay.
sometimes to my detriment. Meaning,
Oh.
it's work and then this personal, and I struggle to blur the lines. And for me, that challenge allowed me to share with my professional network aspects of my personal life that
Oh.
people didn't know. Like, you didn't know I was a cyclist, and that's something that we have in common, right? And I think that really allowed people to see Joneé from a different light as well. So
Mm.
it's tough. I commend
Yeah.
everyone who does, content creation. But I'm grateful for the opportunity to participate in that that challenge, because it definitely stretched me. I think 2022 in general was a year of extreme growth. I think that's what I talked about.
Yeah.
Wikipedia talked about 2022 being the year of the woman, and I wanted to celebrate the woman that is Joneé and who is Joneé evolving into, right? And so you asked the question of, so 2023 Joneé, who is she? She is unapologetic. She understands her value. She no longer
Mm.
tolerates settling for less than she's worth.
Mm.
She is a disruptor. I am constantly striving for authenticity and integrity in the social impact space, because we know what that can look like sometimes. She's an innovator and she's a stark advocate for the young people. I love Gen Z. I think they're brilliant, especially the BIPOC youth. She
Yeah,
has big
yeah.
goals, and she's understanding the value of balance. That's something new for me, and it's something I really want to focus on. I talk with my kids all the time, my work kids, all the time, and I tell them, it's self care. You need to practice self care, and I'm learning how to replenish and restore my own cup, because I do
Mm.
understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. So
Yeah.
that's Joneé 2023 version. We're only 17 days in, so let's see how that goes. But we're going pretty well so far.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you are shining. I love to see it. And just the energy again, as you're saying it, I'm getting like, I could feel myself like raising up as you're saying it. But you really touched on some big things. I think that the whole uh, replenishing, I definitely identify with, especially if you're in a position, if you feel like you're doing something that's purpose driven and you're giving a lot and or people, or you're a leader and you're taking care of people are in your care. And so I think a lot of times we shortchange taking care of ourselves in doing that. I have a friend who said to me, don't do more for others than you do for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've really taken to heart. And I actually have I have a list now that I keep that's daily things that I will do for myself.
Hmm.
And I didn't mean it as like a New Year's resolution, but it
Yeah.
was, as you're saying, who am I today and how am I making sure that I can continue to step forward and show up with my strength each day and not feel so depleted all the time. So I get that.
Yes. Self care. Self
Yeah.
care. We have to take care of our mental health. We have to, really focus. Life is short, man. We love what we do, but yes.
Yeah, such a journey. And I also think when you said the thing about know your value, I saw something, I don't know where it was. I wish I would have taken a screenshot, but it said, know your value and add tax. And I
Yes.
just went, exactly. But that's the thing. I think, it is a matter of learning our own value, I think. And it's not about necessarily, I say this and I'm pretty sure you can relate, knowing some similarities in our background, is I'm showing up to prove myself to myself every day. And that's where I start to see and own my value. And I do think the part about adding tax is important. It sounds good, but it's also really important because I do think a lot of times we shortchange that value. And well, I'm not
Yes.
exactly that. Or,
Mhm.
well, not. no, I wouldn't say expert. We kind of condition things.
Yes.
And so showing up for yourself and fully embracing who you are. Thank you for that example that you've shared with us today. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
You talked about, starting, having your list of the things that you're going to do for yourself. I actually started a gratitude jar
Ah,
because I can be my own biggest critic. And I think there are times that I need to be able to celebrate what my wins are and understand that,
mm,
hey, you may have had one bad day, but look at all the other amazing things that you're doing and learn to celebrate and embrace that. I have a hard
mhm.
time accepting compliments. So these
Yeah.
are all ways that I'm looking to stretch and grow myself. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is so important because on this show, I really do like to just be open and authentic about these things and also share these tips and tricks or whatever. And I usually talk about them as tools in our toolbox. On one hand, tools in the toolbox are things that skills that we learn and that kind of thing. But it's also what are the things that are helping us to continue to thrive. I don't and again, as we're getting to know each other more and more, I'm like, are we the same person in some ways? Because we can be so I can be my worst critic. I can be so hard on myself. So it really
Yeah,
is important, to show up for myself and to help myself because I don't want to just exist on a daily basis. I want to be thriving because you were saying this earlier, which is like if I can thrive, then I can help other people around me thrive and we can feed off each other.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would like to actually shift the conversation a little bit because I want to get back to power play for a moment.
Okay.
And so talk about some of the stuff that is on the docket for this new year.
Yeah, we have some really incredible partnerships that we are looking to develop and to expand. Part of my portfolio also under Power Play is also managing Star CGI, which is a coalition of 10 nonprofits that has a reach of about 6,000 young people, so girls and gender expansive youth. And so even as we're talking about self care, it's actually one of the initiatives that I started when I arrived with Nike, that's powered by Nike. So grateful to Nike. And this is all about giving young people the tools, the resources, the
Mm,
knowledge to continue to replenish their own cups and to practice and engage in self care. So, self care launched in 2020, right before the pandemic. We've
mm,
been able to, transition virtually, and so now we're looking to bring it back in person. So super excited about that. That's always amazing. I think another thing that we launched recently that I'm actually really excited about were our town hall series, right? Not too long ago, 2 years ago, in the midst of a tumultuous election cycle, in the midst of the social justice movement, we were able to create, our young people wanted to be a part of the process.
mm,
They wanted to, how do you participate in the act of protest, but in a safe way? And so we launched this town hall series where we're really introducing young people to local politicians, and they're,
mm,
engaging in conversations. They're learning how to identify, they're learning to identify what are the campaign promises, what are their
mm,
values, how do you, advocate for yourself and then lead your peers as well. So our town hall series, our self-care initiatives, but then also looking to do a lot more women empowerment stuff. I think 2 years ago we did something with the Mets that we're excited to kind of start again. The Mets actually curated a women's empowerment panel where they had different women from all across their entire organization that came together and talk to our girls about career paths and career journeys. And for a lot of our young people, it was their first time being at City Field. And you're sitting in a suite. Mr. and Mrs. Matt is there. The owner comes by. You're just like, wait, is this what it's really like all the time? No, it's not. But
no, it's not. It's not.
let's celebrate this part for now.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about these types of partnerships. BSE Women BSC's Women's Network has been a huge supporter of ours. They actually have a mentorship program with one of our schools where they continuously work with the girls at that particular school. Career stuff, coming out to games, being a part of different campaigns. Just a lot of really exciting things on the docket, and so yeah, we're excited for 2023. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, it sounds like it. Sounds like it. So for people who are listening, if whether it's they are representing an organization or it's just an individual who wants to contribute or do something to create some involvement or impact in your organization,
Mhm.
what does it look like for that to happen? Do they contact you? What are avenues for them to get involved?
Yeah, that would be amazing. We're always open to help. So by all means, feel free to reach out. So our website is www.powerplaynyc.org. Or you can also email me directly. It's jsbilly, JSBILLY, at powerplaynyc.org.
Nice. And also follow Joneé on LinkedIn because she's got
Yes.
great posts and her content to share. Which we'll all link to this. But again, I think for those who are listening, we've talked about a lot of things here today. We've talked about ways to get involved, be it in power play to create that impact at the youth level, especially with women and gender expansiveness. In WISE, also being involved in that. So again, folks who are listening, if there are things that you've heard here today or just want a dose of her incredible energy, hit her up. um, and then one thing I like to do, because we've covered so many topics here today, I like to ask guests at the end if there are one or two things that you hope that the audience takes away from your
Hmm.
time, your episode. What would those one or two things be?
Okay. I would say when we think of social impact, I think social impact is so much more than a themed holiday or a themed month, right? It's not an opportunity to check a box. It's showing up.
Hmm.
It's not showing up and taking pictures. It's doing the research. I think it's identifying change makers within the community, like a power play, who are already here and established, and asking them, what are the needs? What are the things? How can we help you? As opposed to you coming in and saying, hey, this is what I want to do, right? I think, that goes a long way when you're intentional and authentic in the manner that you choose to support a community, especially when we're talking about disenfranchised communities. So that'll be number one as we're thinking about social impact work. I
Yeah.
also like to see people consider sustainable projects, right? I think earlier we talked about funding. Funding is great. Donations are great. Coming out to and tickets to a game is great. But when we see a lot of these like one-offs and these grand gestures. And don't get me wrong, while it's helpful, a reoccurring donation and an ongoing service project, a sustainability project, it goes a long way in supporting these communities. When you're in the nonprofit sector, so much of your work is spent on fundraising that it takes
Mhm.
away from the time and your capacity to really deepen the impact that you're actually having in the community. So I would say consider sustainable funding or sustainable projects, and definitely being really authentic with your service, your social impact work.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you put an exclamation on that because for people or brands that touch it once or do one post and move on, it's the way that, as you've been talking, I thought of it is that person who's in need, they are going to be in need on an ongoing basis. It's not just a one and done for that person, and there are actually humans behind it. So, thank you for all that you shared today with us. Thank you for the work that you're doing and the incredible example that you set, that you walk. And I just think you're awesome. And I'm so excited to be on the journey with you. So, thank you everybody for tuning in today. And I look forward to watching your journey. Thank you.